In Learning Target 2, you need to solve quadratic equations. And there are two methods to do that by hand. One's with factoring and one's with the quadratic formula. With factoring, you have to begin by putting the thing into standard form. And in this case, that means that you're going to want to subtract 7x from both sides, because that's going to make the right-hand side equal 0. What results is going to be x squared minus 12x minus 64 is equal to 0. And when you're factoring this, I'm not actually going to show the whole factoring process, but you can see the factoring Learning Target 1 video for an example if you like. But this thing's going to turn into two factors. It's going to be x minus 16 and x plus 4. Take my word for it. Again, take a look at the factoring target if you're confused by that. When you have these two factors, you're going to split this into two different cases that are going to give you your two different solutions. One of those solutions is going to result from the first factor, the x minus 16. We're going to make a little equation that equals 0. Obviously, adding 16 is going to be what solves this. If you add 16 to both sides, x is actually going to be positive 16 from this case. And in the other case, we're going to grab the x plus 4 factor. Again, we set it equal to 0. And when you subtract 4 from both sides, it reveals that the other solution is x equals negative 4. So in your solution set, we're going to write that with curly brackets. You see that below here. We're going to write 16 and negative 4 inside of it, separated with a comma, because it's a set. It's two things. These are both solutions. The quadratic formula actually starts basically the same way, that we're going to want to make 0 on a side so that the thing is in standard form. So I'll subtract 12. But unlike the last example, the 12 doesn't have anything to combine with. We're actually just going to write it on the side, since a regular number, the 12 that we're subtracting, it's not a like term with either the 3x squared or the 6x. We just write it on the side. But very importantly, the right-hand side is actually equal to 0 now. Here, we need to identify the a, b, and c values. A is 3 because it's the coefficient in front of x squared. B is negative 6. And c is negative 12. The quadratic formula is a very important thing to memorize. If you don't have that memorized, I'll write that out here as well. The solutions are going to be x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. So all you have to do here is plug in a, b, and c and do a lot of plugging and chugging. If b is already negative, and it is, it's negative 6, then the negative when it's in the equation is going to flip that actually into a positive 6 when we plug in. We had 6 plus or minus square root. B squared is negative 6 squared, which is positive 36, minus 4, and here's where I like to write with parentheses, because now plugging a and c in, we've got to watch out for some negatives here, and that's going to be the big challenge of the problem. We plug in a and c as we just listed out. And I can't forget to divide by 2a. 2a here is going to be 6 because a is 3. So our big challenge is going to be that we have to work out whatever's inside the square root. So again, we have our 6 going on, we have the plus or minus going on, but inside of the square root. We know that because we have a minus sign in the middle, and we're subtracting what's ultimately going to be a negative number once we multiply everything by the negative 12. We'll just multiply together 4 times 3, that's 12, and multiply together the other 12. 12 times 12 is 144. And we're going to be adding it because we have those two total negative signs. My algebra teacher when I was in school liked to, every pair of them, would turn them into plus signs. That way you won't ever forget a sign. So it's 36 plus 144, and that's going to be equal to 180. So at this point, this is where 180 is not a perfect square. And so what I like to do here is I like to jump into the calculator and have it do all the heavy lifting for me. 6 plus or minus the square root of 180 divided by 6. So we're going to go to Desmos. What I'm going to type in is I'm going to type in 6 plus the square root. I have to find the button for that. 180 divided by 6. And it's going to give me a decimal. It's going to give me 3.236. What I'm also going to do, because it was a plus or minus in that one spot, is that I'm going to copy and paste it and put a minus sign there instead. So we have these two solutions right here. It's 3.236 and negative 1.236. Those are our two solutions. And there you go. That's the quadratic formula.